So can we start the meeting? Yeah. Suri Sahab, are you ready?
I think everybody will start his mic before we talk.
Kasuri Sahab, are you ready? फिर कैसे हो गया उनका? He was audible and I could see him also, but not now. वगैरह तो नहीं हो गया?
तो थे यहाँ पर।
कसूरी साहब,
I think that went to logging.
Something happened with his connection. Kasuri Sahab,
No, he's not.
साहब आप किसी को बोलिए he will open the meeting till he comes. He will join later. कोई नहीं उसमें.
नहीं तो he was supposed to initiate, then one of us has to begin. No, he was here. I saw him.
He was here.
I saw him also.
He took the chair also.
तो वो पता नहीं कुछ कनेक्शन का हो गया होगा. Otherwise ये
वो कुर्सी पर बैठ भी गए.
हाँ.
मैंने कहा कुर्सी पर बैठ भी गए वो.
हाँ. He was. Just let's wait for a minute. Otherwise, of course.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mushir Hussain Saab.
I'm in a very noisy place, I'm afraid. I'm just getting my earphones and then it will be easier to talk.
Thank you.
It's been raining outside, so I'm quite wet, so I apologize.
No, you will.
Somebody is trying to connect on audio.
Jha Sahab, would you like to initiate?
Jasab, you're muted. 1 second.
I'm sorry. Sir, what I will suggest that let somebody initiate it, maybe you or anybody, and we must actually listen to Kasuri Saab first. My idea was that Kasuri Saab initiates it and then we also join it.
Yeah, he's there. He's correcting again. He got corrected. So we'll wait for a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
He is here.
Are you all right?
I'm fine, thank you. I don't know, some problem. All of a sudden I disappeared and everybody disappeared.
Acha. Are you comfortable now? Can we begin the meeting?
Yeah, I'm quite comfortable.
Acha. Good afternoon, friends. We have assembled here to participate in a discussion on improving Indo-Pak relation, the J&K question. Today we will discuss only J&K, and Mr. Kasuri has agreed to initiate the discussion. Kasuri Saab is well known. He was a foreign minister of Pakistan for one full term, and he has participated in good number of discussion on this subject. He has written a extremely valuable book. I trust second edition of the book will come out shortly. We're also familiar with the fact that Indo-Pak relations are not comfortable, are not normal. And each one of us present here today is interested in improving Indo-Pak relations. Jammu, there are many issues on which we have differences. Jammu and Kashmir is one such issue. Today, Mr. Kasuri has agreed to initiate the discussion describing the contours of the possible agreement. And after him, each one of us also would speak on the same subject, possible contours of the agreement, and react to whatever he says. So today session is going to be extremely positive with a desire that we make such contribution which would bring us closer and the relations between the two countries would improve. May I now request Kasuri Saab to initiate the discussion in 7-8 minutes, and then each one of us will follow. He will be followed by Mr. Jha, the eminent member of parliament who is interested in improving Indo-Pak relations. He has contributed immensely on this subject. Kasuri Saab, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shah, first I'd like to thank you as chairman of the Center on Improving, and chairman of the Center for Peace and Progress, and for organizing this function today. I do not know if there are other people who were participated in the past. If they are there, they're likely to join. I have no idea. But I am glad you, in your initial remarks, you said that people who are interested in peace. You see, if only a dialogue can only be held between those who are interested in peace. If a rhetoric is to be resorted to, as some people did on the last occasion, it actually makes matters much easier. So after thanking you for providing me this opportunity, let me say a few things. Because there is a certain atmosphere which prevails, I'm just going to hint at some things which are very important to understand. And I say this because people are really interested in improving relations. Now, obviously, the first thing would be to resume full diplomatic relations, exchange of high commissioners, resume trade, and people-to-people contact. But we haven't seen that doesn't seem to be happening. And there's more resistance on your side than in Pakistan, at least on the issue of people-to-people contact. And I have actually seen people who came to some conferences, who were supposed to be speakers at conferences, their names were announced. And the last moment they told us that the government of India had not allowed them to come. Now, so if we have the opportunity, which I hope we will, on the importance of people-to-people contact, I would like to talk. But, there are certain things which I would like to point out. And that is this, that after having said this, the basic thing is that there has to be mutual respect. If there is no mutual respect, obviously there can be no progress. And since the time of at least the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, the principle of sovereign equality of nations has been recognized. Big nations and small nations. And peace only prevails if that condition is fulfilled. Otherwise, as we've seen, that why do wars break out? Yes, there is a conflict of interest, but very often there's absence of talk, no conversation, no dialogue. And dialogue cannot happen in the absence of mutual respect and respect for sovereign equality of nations. And as I told you, 1648, 350 years ago, Treaty of Westphalia, after 30 years wars and 80 years wars in Europe, they came to the conclusion, we've not yet had 80 years wars. We have had 76 years of, well, let's say, a very patchy relationship, including 4 wars, the last in 1999, and 10 occasions when we were near a war, like Balakot, when there was a hostile exchange between the 2 air forces. And as you've seen, most wars start once quite unintended. And once started, they have unintended consequences. Now look at this war between Ukraine and Russia. There's no comparison in their size. But there it is. There were efforts previously that this could be resolved through certain talks. There was, I think there's a Minsk agreement. And that, of course, for various reasons, Minsk agreement was set aside. And both countries thought, Russia thought it was a very large country. And frankly, there was nothing that Ukraine would do. The Ukraine did the second best thing. It tried to collect everybody under the sun who would oppose Russia. We do not know what the end of the war would be. So these are the preliminary points I make. And Russia and Ukraine is not a nuclear power. I said repeatedly, only mad people think about war. So having said this, you requested me, you asked me, and I was happy to comply. You see, people often refer to 4 points. Yes, I can't help it. In fact, I was so foolish. In the book I wrote, I did not have a subtitle 4 points because President Musharraf made it so famous worldwide and it was followed by the Indian media. So it was actually a framework agreement which had about 12 points, which looked after India's concerns, aspirations of the Kashmiris and Pakistanis' concerns. Bereft of the spirit, it means nothing because spirit is very important. And let me highlight one thing to you, which will tell you how important the spirit is. Why did we arrive at that framework agreement? Countries that have been so hostile to each other. Very simple reason. We agreed that there would be a fallout for both countries. This is the history of our countries. This is the politics we've inherited. The political parties say one thing in power. In the opposition, they start attacking the government in power if it says the same thing that they did while they're in opposition. So what we did is we said, we will not proclaim victory if the Indian government is attacked or the Pakistani government is attacked by their respective oppositions, because they'll destroy any spirit of an agreement. So this is how mutual respect, mutual trust is. So since I've sent you this entire scope, the underlying factors, I've of course left out the factors leading to the fallout, because that would have been too long. I've written a book of 850 pages. I've just given you the bare bone, 15 or 16 pages, which contain that. I will not repeat that. I will only come to it if I am asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kasuri Saab. Mr. Jha, Professor Jha, who is a senior member of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house in India, and a committed peace activist, will offer his comments. He will be followed by Mr. Akbar from Muzaffarabad. Jha Saab.
Shukriya, OP Shahji. Thank you very much, Kasuri Saab. Pleasure listening to you as well as reading you both ways. You write well, you speak well.
A bit louder, please.
Just a moment, sir. Am I audible now?
Now you're all right.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. I said and I repeat, reading you and listening to you. Both ways it's excellent. My opening remarks, Shah Sahab, and to all my friends who are sitting here, I come from northern part of India. I would say northeastern part of India, close to that. For me, Kashmir, I have seen through the eyes of my students. When I came here in Delhi University, when I teach here, large number of my students were from Kashmir, and I have had a kind of engagement with Kashmir, not precisely or political always. I also had engagement with Kashmir when the earthquake happened. So, with regard to India, Pakistan, I don't know. My generation thought things will be better than 1947. But I must say and share with all of you that our primary premise should be the realization as soon as it dawns on both the sides, India and Pakistan, that we have no other alternative but for peace. As suggested by Kasuri Saab, Treaty of Westphalia took so many years, but the treaty came. Would we wait for the same amount of time that we have our own version of Treaty of Westphalia between India and Pakistan? I think what worries me and what even Kasuri Saab said very pointedly, that the entire language of approaching each other, discussing each other, has undergone transmogrification. इसको हम कहते हैं काया पलट होना. मुझे ये दो मुल्क 47 में भी इतने दूर नहीं लगे. मैं पैदा नहीं हुआ 47 में, लेकिन मैंने जो पढ़ा, पार्टीशन के बाद एक सेंस ऑफ रिग्रेट भी था दोनों साइड, एक सेंस ऑफ रिमोर्स था. वो सेंस ऑफ रिग्रेट और रिमोर्स आज की डेट में मुझे एक मिसिंग लिंक लगता है. ऊपर से कश्मीर के रूप में एक एल्बेट्रॉस है हमारे गले के इर्द गिर्द. ये कसूरी साहब भी मानेंगे, हम सब मानते हैं. और हमारा मानना है कि कश्मीर, मैंने पार्लियामेंट में कई दफा कहा कि कश्मीर को हमने बॉलीवुड की नजर से देखा है. जमीन का खूबसूरत टुकड़ा जिसको आप बार बार कहते हो कि इतनी हसीन वादियां, but we have never realized that the people in Kashmir, they have their own concerns, and these concerns are massive. These concerns are actually touching your constitution also. Freedom, dignity, fraternity. I mean, these have become meaningless words when you go to Kashmir. And I think, as I said earlier, Kasuri Saab said speakers were invited, are invited. I am one of them who was invited to speak on Asma Jahangir's memorial, and I was denied the political clearance. I mean, unless we decide, I mean, state's behavior, I can understand. You are under pressure for many things, but these are the easy verticals. You allow normalization of discussion. Now you are playing cricket with each other, but in Sri Lanka, will the heavens fall if we play in Lahore or if we play in Delhi? Now, Kasuri Sir was very right. Our domestic politics in both the countries, I must say, it has undergone a transformation, and that transformation certainly is not good. And before the penultimate argument from our point from my side would be that idea of my government's idea is beyond Kashmir. For them, Kashmir is an issue for UP, for Bihar, for Madhya Pradesh, for Rajasthan, for Chhattisgarh, not for Kashmir. Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. Unless this paradigm shift takes place, I don't know whether the change of potential change of government in 2024 will have that kind of impact. I'm not quite sure, because defeating a party electorally and defeating that party's ideological in ideological arena, these are two different things. And I once again reiterate with the final word that it's pleasure being part of these kind of platforms, but the shrinking space reminds us that we have not learned anything through 1947, through the subsequent wars all over the world have never given a solution. Wars have created the potential of little more wars. more wars. We have to make an option. And I think in this entire process, the biggest victim is the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They remain perpetual, perennial victims, and we only look at them through electoral lens in other parts of India. Thank you very much, Shah Saab, for inviting to me here.
Thank you very much, Dasa, for your initial remarks. Mr. Latif Akbar from Muzaffarabad. Akbar Saab. And he will be followed by Nizamuddin Bhatt from Srinagar.
Thank you very much, Shah Saab. I think this Zoom conference was the need of the hour, and in these dark nights of subcontinent, particularly Jammu and Kashmir, you have given a light, a candle in these dark nights. So after a long time, we are together and discussing the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. So it means that there is an issue which is concerned with both the countries, Pakistan and India. But the most concerned party is the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So I think what Kasturi Sahib has said, or Professor Manoj Sahib has said, they are both of them, they are very right. The last word of Professor Manoj Kumar is very important. That is the Kashmiris who are most suffered, and they should be treated in a better manner way. But I think, sir, there is a problem that we have, as Kashmir Sahib said, we have fought 4 wars, some proxy wars, both Kashmir, but the sufferers are always the Kashmiris. At this time, they are also suffering. For the last 75 years, we could not reach a decision or a conclusion about the Kashmir issue. Now, it's very simple. There's nothing complicated, as some people say. Very rightly, people said, we are talking about Kashmir as it's a very beautiful place and very scenic place and very tourist place, but don't see with the eyes that these people, there are living people who are suffering from in these paradise of the world. So in 75 years, we could not get a solution from this area. So my point of view is that the solution is very simple. Let the people of Jammu and Kashmir should decide their future, where they want to go, where they want to live, in which way they want to live over there. That's the only way. Or I think India has tried its level best to, I say, conquer the Kashmir, because the way they are, no country in the world treats like as India treating the Kashmiri. They are killing the people, they are killing the children, many leadership. This is the only movement where the leadership has been hanged and the leadership is put into jail. In most of the, where you see in most of the countries where there is a movement of freedom, the common people definitely suffer, but leadership doesn't give the sacrifices. But there are many people who have sacrificed their leadership. So I think this is only possible way. There should be dialogue, continuous dialogue, and the army should go back to the barracks, and human rights violations should be stopped. And let's see Pakistan. We should not be capitalized with these people who are saying that Kashmir should be not discussed in India. But there are voices who are saying that the Kashmir should. I do know, as I have heard Rajiv Gandhi, he said in Washington D.C. that there should be greater dialogue on Jammu and Kashmir. So this is a very sane wise. I appreciate that. We accept it. We welcome it. And there are so many other people like you and like many other people in India who have the voice to that this issue should be resolved. It is not only for the people of Jammu and Kashmir only, but it is the interest of the India and Pakistan both. So my point of view, dialogue should continue in a peaceful manner. In the meantime, all the political prisoners should be released, and all the draconian laws which are placed over there, they should be withdrawn, and there should be peace, normal life, and then go for the another step. Thank you, myself.
Thank you very much. Nizamuddin Bhatt Saab from Srinagar.
Yeah, sir, thank you very much.
And he will be followed by Jahid Hussain from Islamabad. Nizamuddin Bhatt Saab.
Heard the respected speakers experienced in statecraft and also concerned about peace and prosperity of the people of subcontinent as stakeholders, yes. But what I feel personally is that our story of Jammu and Kashmir, it has started, begun with hope and promise, post-partition. And its journey has been of a flip-flop, and now we are in dismay, absolutely in dismay. As an entity of consequence, we are not being even considered now. You see what has happened in last 4, 5, 6 years post 2019. A state is truncated, reduced to an ignominious level, almost a non-entity. People are being decimated. One part of ideology is absolutely imprisoned, and another part of ideology, which was somewhat seen as comfortable to others that be, those voices are also muzzled. A kind of a situation has been created where Pakistan has, in my opinion, raising voices here, there, but has kept somewhat off from Kashmir issue because of its own problems. And our brothers in other part of Azad Kashmir, other part of Kashmir, they are also a bit silent. There are no voices heard for peace, in favor of peace, resolution, or kind of an assertion which would otherwise be needed. And here you see that Government of India, present dispensation, feels that we have accomplished the process of integration. After abrogation of 370, the case is now in Supreme Court, and once the judgment comes, some point of view of Indian government and the law that prevails in our country is that it will be a final word. One part of the internal dimension which we used to see of Jammu and Kashmir will, in their opinion, and legally be closed, whatever is given, whether they uphold government act or they stand with the petitioners. That apart, judgment has to come, but that will be a final word. The external dimension used to hinge on third party sympathetic interventions, not direct interventions that would disturb the sovereignty of one or another, or would see Kashmiris as blue-eyed boys for them. No. Perhaps out of the sense of community of nations, they would intervene for a just cause. Because as I said, that it started post-partition, Jammu Kashmir issue started with hope and promise. And then two countries were at loggerheads, and you know the history, you know the consequences. Two countries have suffered, and the worst has happened to people of Jammu and Kashmir. Now for the movement, visualizing the entire scenario, its history, replete with incidents, events, successes, failures, achievements, it's replete with everything. Same is the satisfaction of people of Jammu and Kashmir. At no point of time, when two countries failed, get together, we were unhappy. When two countries were in bonhomie, we were unhappy because as stakeholders, people of Jammu and Kashmir were never taken on board. When you talk of 4 points or any other agreements or the exchange between two governments or anything that has happened beyond the subcontinent or in the corridors of power of big powers where Kashmir was discussed or at institutions which matter for international disputes, where were the Kashmiris? Where were they heard? We lack audience. We lacked it. We are lacking it again. We are not being heard. But let two governments at least, or the people of two countries, be concerned with our suffering. As everybody said, that what about the two countries, where, when and where will they come together, for what objectives, what will be the fate of the entire subcontinent from strategic point of view, from diplomatic point of view, from cultural point of view. Let us hope for better. But we as Kashmiris don't see at the end of the tunnel for the moment any hope of getting some kind of relief. There is somewhat a kind of a silence at borders. We are suffering less. But what about our psychological trauma? What about our past backlog of miseries? Whosoever from Kashmir, whether a Hindu or a Muslim, we have on our shoulders nothing but suffering. Coffin, coffin of our hope, not coffin of our bodies only. Coffin of our hope, coffin of our culture, coffin of those promises. This is not tragedy of errors, this is an actual tragedy. Until and unless Pakistan and India reconcile to one single idea that both of us had some promises made to people of Jammu and Kashmir, which as civilized nations should be kept. And after that, if people of Jammu and Kashmir
चला
and
गया तो
the
चलता रहेगा.
governments of two countries come down to a bottom line, which is simple management of peace and dignity and honor, I don't think Kashmiris will be hostile to that kind of an arrangement. Let's hope that two governments come together, see this as a big issue of survival for the countries and issue of survival for us, and issue of future hope for millions and millions of people who belong to two cultures, two countries, which have many things shared, and a human issue which will give hope to entire uh, international community if the two countries settle down somewhere and say, yes, this is an issue. We need to sit down and we need to come down to a bottom level. It will satisfy all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Jahid Hussain from Islamabad, he is a journalist, and Mr. Nizamuddin Bhatt is a former member of the J&K Assembly, an eminent writer. After Hussain, we will have Professor G.K. Muju. Jahid Hussain Saab, your next 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this forum. Um, well, actually, the situation at the moment is very pessimistic, to say it. What we are seeing today is, I think, probably the relations between India and Pakistan has hit the low. Which I mean, what is missing at the whole thing is that there seems to be no hope at this point of time for the breaking of the ice. I'm a member of several track to conferences for the last 15 years, and with India. And what I have witnessed there, that initially we had lot of hope among ourselves that things will improve after some time, the tension will be over. But what I feel that it is, I don't see it happening anytime soon. The worst situation what we are facing is that the two countries do not have full diplomatic relations, and the people's to people contact has completely has come to an end. We don't visit each other's country. I remember actually about 5 6 years ago, I used to go to Delhi quite frequently to attend the conferences, but it's not going to happen now. So it's a very depressing situation. But saying all that, the two countries do not have any other choice but to come back to normality. And I think probably that would be best thing happen for both the countries, people of both countries. The gap between the problem is that because end of contact, people to people contact, we have developed a kind of perception of each other, a very hostile perception. I agree with with Mr. Jha what he said, that in earlier days, when in earlier days when we were growing up, we didn't see that kind of hostility. But now the situation seems to have completely changed. The peace lobby in both the country I have seen actually has shrunk. Particularly, I can say that until few years ago, almost there was a consensus among Pakistan's political parties to have better relations with India. But that lobby is also shrinking because of some recent developments. In India, I've been speaking to my friends in India, journalist friends, diplomats, military generals, retired, and it seems to me that uh, the 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 desire for peace, or sorry, I will not say desire for peace, but desire for better relations with Pakistan is basically is shrinking fast. I think obviously, as earlier speakers have mentioned, that Kashmir has been the major issue. The thing is that I agree with that. That 4 points at one point when Prime Minister Vajpayee and later on Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and President Musharraf from this side, we have moved very quite significantly on the issue of Kashmir. It was not a permanent solution, but it was what I said. I think that was the most positive development I've seen India-Pakistan relations, and we missed the bus. I will not go into what went wrong, but that was the best opportunity. I remember I was in Srinagar when bus service between the two parts of Kashmir started, and the atmosphere was very different. And I don't know. I can't go to India now, and it's rather impossible to go to Kashmir much more. But what is more important, actually, that we should not stop taking Kashmir as a territorial issue, and that has been the major problem over the years. Both Pakistan and India has been vying to control that control that territory, but it should be seen a kind of a part of Kashmir's democratic rights or fundamental rights. It should be seen as the issue which directly concerns Kashmiris on both of the sides. And I think that the best solution would be to let the Kashmiri decide their own fate. Should not be like Pakistan, as Pakistan should claim that is it our territory, or for India it is integral territory of India. At the moment, the biggest issue how to break the tie. I'm not saying that there is an easy solution even now, but I think probably we should can break the ice by improving human rights situation in Kashmir. I was just going through a report uh, uh, by uh, by some Indian intellectuals and ex-government officials about 5 years of non-representative administration in Jammu and Kashmir after what happened after 5th August 2019. And according to that report, I will just quote from that report, the issue has worsened. It is not, it's a not normal situation as being portrayed by the Indian government. And
Please conclude. Hmm.
so basically, I think the best thing at this point of time, at least the Kashmiris should be given the right to choose their own representative and own government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Mojo, and he will be followed by Mujir Hussain. We will have the benefit of concluding remarks from Professor Jha and Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri towards the end. Professor Mojo, please unmute yourself. Yeah, आप कर दीजिए.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Speak.
You see, as I have been always saying, the issue between India and Pakistan is only Kashmir. Other things are only fallout of that. What is happening, terrorism, and other things are only fallout of that. And unless the two countries sit down and have dialogue over the issue, there can be no peace in the subcontinent. And we're holding actually the peace of the subcontinent and ransom by not addressing this problem. And immediately, what is the worst thing is about Kashmir? Pakistan is a part. You can't deny it because 1/3 of Kashmir is under Pakistan control. So it's a party to the dispute or to the issue, whatever we call it now. And we have to sit together and talk about it. And unfortunately, the worst thing of this whole issue has been Kashmir are suffering. See the people on two sides of LOC, families are there, families are here. The people living along the LOC, they're always under threat. Fighting from that side, fighting from this side. Then the worst what happened after 90 is the complete exodus of the entire minority community of Kashmiri Hindus who are scattered globally. So these are 2, 3 issues which pertain directly to Kashmir issue and which are direct fallout of the Kashmir problem today. And terrorism has been one of the worst things which has played havoc with this because wars failed to solve the issue. Pakistan is already terrorism, and which has further created more difficulties for both the countries there. So, and then it has become, I think more issues are added because of the, you see, involvement of China now, Ladakh, then CPUC and other things. So it's become more complicated. So I think both the governments, although they are compared, they are close rather, they're uncertain what to do about it. But so long as governments and their own compulsions, political compulsions, they're committed to their own commitments. So long as they do it, I think the civil society on both sides, both countries, must come together. And organizations like this Center for Peace and Progress, which is doing so much of work for it, such organizations should come together and form some sort of think tank. As I said last time also, some sort of think tank in both countries, Pakistan and India. They will start working at social level. At least let governments find their own level. But the question, people are suffering. Normal people are suffering. Psychologically, they are suffering. Physically, we are suffering. The trade is suffering. Our support activities are suffering. Our literary functions are suffering. We are able to meet each other at any level. And we can't say only that Pakistan is our enemy. We are also their enemy. When I sit in front of me, I see the enemy in front of me. I'm his enemy. Both are enemies. Why can't we sit down and discuss this together? Because both are at the same level. Arrogance, no, if I'm strong, I won't talk, that's arrogance. And that will solve the problem. I can't be misused by power, and therefore, no, I won't talk because I'm stronger, I'm something other. And we have failed on the account. We have to come down and discuss all these things. And then, as I said, the think tank should create a sort of 2 chapters, one in Pakistan, one in India. And they should try to meet the social levels. And social media, film industry, all these things can help a lot. All these things to create amicable, I must say, this environment in both the countries. That at least people meet. Let the governments find their own level. Let people meet and discuss. Let this travel facilities be, I mean, say, more additional travel facilities. People are
Please
able to go
conclude.
from J&K, can go to Pakistan, and they come here. And trade, commerce, and all those things are very important. Religious tourism, health tourism. At this social level, at community level, let the people from two sides be involved. Let them meet. Probably that can create an environment for a peaceful Kashmir problem. And it's a fact that Kashmir is a problem which needs a resolution. And you can't deny the fact that Pakistan is a party to it. And you had to sit down today or tomorrow. You had to sit down and discuss the issue. And the earlier you do it, it is better. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Mushir Hussain for his comments in about
Thank you.
4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Shah Saab. I'm sorry I cannot be on the video because I'm traveling to a meeting and got stuck here in the rain. So I went into a cafe and it was too noisy. So I've come out in the car park, I'm afraid. So it's best if I just speak. I've been listening to all the speakers, and there is obvious, I think, to me, that Kashmir is the main issue, and people have acknowledged that more or less. I think Kasuri Saab made an important point of mutual respect. That is important, and without mutual respect, the two countries cannot progress. He, as someone who has read his book, he has been very brief in telling us about the 12 points and how the 4 points came about. And we all know the 4 points, so I will not repeat it. But Zahid Saab made an important point about the lack of diplomatic relations between the two countries. And I think as the first step, this needs to be restored. And I think people-to-people communication has an important role in this. Shah Saab, you've always talked about compulsions of the countries. I think it's important to understand, and the limitations. And one of the main compulsions and limitations is, of course, limited to Kashmir. If we just look at the geography of Kashmir, and if India could just imagine that if Kashmir was India's, Pakistan will have no border with China. India will have a border with Afghanistan. And in any thought, this is completely impossible. And so the idea that Kashmir belongs to one or the other does not hold. I think, as speakers have said, a lot of concession has been mostly from one side, but not from the other. And the agreements or the potential agreement that were made in between 2002, 6, and 8, when it came to an end, need to be revived. I think there was a time when countries could negotiate with each other. That is now far gone. But the peace progress has to continue. The people-to-people contact must be established again, and free flow of people, exchange of thoughts is a good step in that direction. You would recall that the events of 2019, when the status of Kashmir changed, has had a very adverse effect on Pakistan. And the result, and people have referred to this, the human rights situation in Kashmir does bother us. And maybe the news is suppressed, but there's still news that comes out is does not make happy reading. So there is need for mutual respect. There is need for exchange of ambassadors. There is need for movement. There is need for allowing the Kashmiri people to choose their own lot, and at least to allow them to meet with each other and have a relationship. I still have in my mind such a picture that was published in newspaper of the river flowing, and the two sides, when we had limited peace, the two sides people from both sides standing across the river and shouting to each other, you know, this person has now passed away, this person has been born. You know, people need to meet each other. Life must go on, not divided, but through mutual peace, through agreement. So we need to come to end this impasse. I mean, the matter is in the Supreme Court of India, and it's a sub judice matter. But politically, this has had ramifying effect everywhere. And the democracy that existed in Kashmir, even limited, has been taken away. There is no government except the union government that rules over Kashmir. I think the first step will be to restore a government there. Let the representative of Kashmiri people rule Kashmir as they have done in the past. They may be representative not to the liking of Pakistan,
Please
but they are
conclude.
representative. And so, in the end, I think the peace has great prospects, and people from both countries are interested, and it should be taken forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Muzaffar Shah from Srinagar, Vice President of Awami Conference. Muzaffar Shah Saab, next 4 minutes are yours.
Okay. He is not. Okay.
You're not audible as yet.
Now, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Shah Saab. Thank you, all the participants. I'll be very brief and to the point. We heard right from Kasuri Saab down up to the last speaker who was talking. Simple point. Mutual respect, resuming of diplomatic relations, civil societies must meet, no alternative but peace, and people of J&K are the victims. Then Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir must be taken on board. That's all true. What I would suggest is that the group that has been meeting regularly under Shah Saab's Center for Peace and Progress, it's time for us on both sides of the divide that we should now approach the governments in office, whatever they are, and come up and tell them, look, Jammu and Kashmir is whether you agree or not, it's one of the places which is a nuclear flashpoint. And we cannot have wars. Wars are no solution, as all the eminent speakers have spoken. And that's no solution now. They agreed. Then why should people on both sides of the line of control not meet? After all, if it is a matter of Kashmir, then as Jasa very rightly said, we are not only the victims, we are the principal sufferers of this dispute right from 1947. And it is high time that at Mr. Kasuri's level or at Jasab's level or the other people who are on this show, eminent people, we come forward and meet our respective governments and say, well, enough is enough. You can't let us be suffering like this forever. We are here, part of my family is across the Neelam River. I'm so near here from Udi. My bridge is closed for the last so many years, so many decades, and in between it just opened for a few months or maybe a year. That's not enough. We can discuss Kashmir, but very importantly, we have had bilateral discussions, no doubt about it, right from Lahore to Agra to Shimla to wherever. But as very rightly pointed out by one of our speakers, because the people of Jammu, Kashmir, on both sides of the line of control, have not been involved in it, because we are the basic principal sufferers of this dispute, whether somebody likes it or not. So Can you take us on board, please? And we will sit down. We will sit down with people in Kashmir. We will sit down with people in Jammu. We'll sit down with people in Ladakh. We will sit down with people in Muzaffarabad and Gilgit. And we will sit down with people in Jammu. These are the 5 regions I'm talking about. These people will definitely come up with some solution that will be acceptable to India, Pakistan, and the people of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. This kind of a solution was forwarded in 2001, if I'm not wrong, in Jammu and Kashmir intra-dialogue, 5-region summit dialogue. That was a very exhaustive paper that was provided by my father, late G.M. Shah, on the same pattern as my grandfather, Sher-e-Kashmir, Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah's People's Convention. And this was the basic fundamental on that. At that time, Vajpayee Sahib was the Prime Minister. I was head of the organizing committee, and we almost pulled it off. But at the last minute, the visas were denied. It didn't happen. After that, we tried thrice more. Did not happen. But now, so much of water has flown down. I think, Shah Sahib, from the Center of Peace and Progress, it is time that we consult with the governments. It is time that the people in Pakistan consult with their government. Whatever is there. A government is a government, whosoever is in there in power controlling. That these people are now wanting that there should be a solution to the miseries. For that, unless you don't take the people of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Muzaffarabad, Gilgit, Baltistan, you don't take them on board, nothing is going to happen. And we cannot have a war. So my only suggestion, sir, is people-to-people dialogue. Civil societies have to be met. People have to be allowed to travel to both sides, to both the countries, without any fear. Because tomorrow, if the government...
Please conclude.
Yes, I will conclude, sir. If in 2024, if another set of people come into power, be sure they will be talking the same language as we are talking today. But when guys are in power, they change their minds for their electoral benefits. But what is happening is that the people in Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh are suffering from 1947, whatever you may say. So give them peace, give them a chance to progress with both the countries, and let Jammu and Kashmir be the real bridge between the two nations. And we can settle down this matter. There's not a big deal. It can be settled. There is no question that it cannot be settled. So I am of the opinion that this particular group that is meeting as one of a very important track group, it should consult with both its governments. It should try and meet in both the countries and try and lay down a good platform for a peace agreement to be reached between the two nations. That is what I would really like the Center for Peace and Progress to do. Thank you, Kasuri Saab. Thank you, Jah Saab. Thank you, all my other participants there. Let us forget about now talking the same language in every conference.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have something concrete and move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Abdul Rashid to offer his comment from Muzaffarabad. He will be followed by Brigadier Mukherjee and Tanveer Sadiq. Abdul Rashid Saab. अब्दुल रशीद साहब अनम्यूट करिए हाँ हाँ फरमाएं
Thank you Shah Sahab. Thank you Shah Sahab. Adab and salam to all participants. We are very grateful for your this effort for organizing this very timely Zoom conference. and our leaders and different intellectuals participated and they contributed in this regard. Basically, the first point is, first of all, we should recognize that this is an very important issue to be resolved. This is an international issue. This is an issue in between India and Pakistan, and unless this core issue is not addressed, the bilateral relationship between India and Pakistan, the possibility of improving a bilateral relationship is, I think, very bleak. Secondly, many efforts have been made in this regard to settle this issue. There have been wars, and there was a very long armed struggle, and we saw consequences of such efforts. We should agree that this issue should be settled peacefully, and Kashmiris are peace-loving people. It is a historical fact that in 1947, an armed struggle started, and at that time, 65,000 armed militants, they were participating in freedom struggle. But when this issue referred to the United Nations and the United Security Council resolution passed, and they asked Kashmiris to lay down their arms, no a single example can be referred of any education by any militant. All the militant leaders and mujahideen and freedom fighters, they put their guns aside and they gave the chance of the peaceful settlement of this issue. But unfortunately, we could not see the result of all those hopes and efforts since so far. So we hope that the prime sufferers of the Kashmiris, as Professor Jha and others, they have rightly identified, and they are being victimized. And I think on the given end, it is Indian government who has offered something. There are the continued lives in Kashmir. Worst kind of human rights violation is going on in Kashmir. Human Rights International Commission and Amnesty International and many humanitarian groups, they have reported in this regard. And what happened in 2019, after that we see the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir have been repealed and eroded, and things have gone worsened, more bad to worse. So our leaders, they are being scared. What happened with Gilani Saab, Ashraf Zarai Saab, Mirwais Saab is under house arrest for the last 5 years. He cannot offer his Jummah and Eid prayer. Historical Jamia Masjid, that is closed, that is locked. So in this atmosphere, unless the Indian government doesn't relax and doesn't repeal some draconian laws and these such laws which stop the basic human rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, I think no discussion and no process can move further. So we request all the policy makers and especially who can prevail upon the Indian government that they should first of all they should initiate a process of CBMs with Kashmiris, releasing all Kashmiri leaders and restoring the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. And as rightly pointed out by many speakers, that the people-to-people contact in between the two states, Azad Kashmir and occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan and Ladakh and so on. So I think by this way we can move forward and we can create an atmosphere of of any proper negotiation. And Kashmiris themselves, they can bridge up the situation in between India and Pakistan. I think this was very fruitful discussion, and I hope, inshallah, in future, such discussions will pave the way.
Thank you very much. Brigadier Mukherjee from Kolkata. Brigadier
Shah Sahab.
Mukherjee from...
Thank you, Shah Sahab. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yeah, you are audible.
A very good evening to all the panelists. I've been on this Zoom meetings that you have organized in the past also, and some of the speakers have been in the past engaging in this dialogue of trying to bring some resolution to this J&K problem. I'll be very brief, Shah Sahab. Firstly, Kasuri Saab's 12-point or 4-point resolution that he's made out is a very detailed proposal, which is workable. I wouldn't say it is not workable. But the fact is that maybe all stakeholders do not agree to it. Otherwise, after the Vajpayee regime, you had 10 years of the UPA regime. Nobody worked on it again. So therefore, there must have been no takers on the UPA side also. And subsequently, during the Modi era, in the last 9 years, there has been no movement. So therefore, I do not know why all stakeholders are not on board, whether it is the Indian side or the Pakistani side, but definitely there are lobbies which do not want the resolution which Kasuri Saab says is a workable plan to really be implemented. That is one. The second point that I try to make is, ever since 370 was abrogated and the matter is sub judice, Pakistan has outrightly come around and said there can be no talks and no normalizations with India till 370 is again brought back. Obviously, at the moment, it is sub judice. Everybody will understand that tomorrow there will be a judgment. It is already reserved. Suppose, hypothetically, I say that the Supreme Court upholds the right of the Indian government to abrogate 370. Will then Pakistan never talk to us? Is something the Pakistanis will have to consider. I personally feel that we need to break the ice, and therefore there must be no conditions. My plea to both the countries is that if we have to resolve this issue, there should be no preconditions. Pakistan should not turn around and say 370 वापस लाओ तभी बात करेंगे. India should not turn around and say terrorism हटाओ तभी बात करेंगे. If we want to talk, then firstly there must be a period where the trust deficit, which is very low, must be brought back to some normalcy. Therefore, what can be done? I have been in the past time and again saying that let us first engage without, you see, just a few days back, if I remember correctly, Shahbaz Sharif had said that we have learned our lesson, we would like to engage with India. And the very next day he retracted, saying that nahi, Kashmir to pehle baat karni padegi. So this sort of a thing will not, I do not know. Somehow it won't work. All the panelists here on the Zoom show tonight, they understand that breaking the ice means no preconditions. Also, we are learning that whether the Indian government, there is a very, very, should I say, strong opinion in the Indian security circles, Shah, that will China allow Pakistan to solve this problem? I don't think so. China today is a bigger enemy to India than Pakistan is seen to be among the security circles. And I don't think so. The Chinese are very happy with the engagement and going to a resolution. Also, this is my personal opinion, and all the panelists may have their different views. Initially, when Modi had come to power, Modi ji, while flying back to the country, had on the invitation of the then PM Nawaz Sharif, landed there in Pakistan. Subsequently, what happened? Pathankot happened. In the Vajpayee regime, Kargil happened. Subsequently, with Xi Jinping being taken to Gujarat, Jhula Jhulaya Gaya, Galwan happened. Knowing Modi ji, he will not again, after being snubbed by either of these two nations, take the first step. Pakistan has to be very clear, and I can predict that Modi ji, in his regime, if he comes back again in 24, he will not take the first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanveer Sadiq from Srinagar.
Adab, Assalamualaikum, and good afternoon to all of you here. My name is Tanveer Sadiq, and I belong to the National Conference from Srinagar. I know a lot of distinguished people are sitting here who have been very close to a solution, who have seen the ons and offs of Kashmir politics and Indo-Pak talks. And I don't think there is much to contribute, but just a few points that I would like to make. To start with, it's very surprising that till yesterday, Pakistan would not consider the Indian constitution, or a part of that would be Article 370. But strangely, when 2019 happened, there are two dimensions to this. One was external and one was internal. The external on 2019, with a strike of a pen, the external was stopped there and then. Then came the internal, which was the relations between Delhi and Jammu and Kashmir, which we called the autonomy or the Article 370 or 1952-53 status. Now, today, the situation has reached a stage where we are actually not in a position to even discuss Article 370. The fact that the whole case that we all are fighting in the Supreme Court for the restoration of Article 370 should be an eye-opener to all of us sitting here, that right now even the own boundaries are under danger, as in the relation between Jammu and Kashmir and Delhi. So while I come from a party which has seen the brunt of militancy and lost thousands of his people at the hand of gun, I understand how peace, how dialogue, how talking to each other is the right way forward. But are we in a position to talk right now? Pakistan is in disarray. There is a government in this country which feels that they are right. No matter what they do, they feel that they are the only people who are right. No other people matter. I think somebody here said that they will never take the first step. So what is the right step? I think Professor Jha was right. When we can play cricket, I don't see a reason why the same people, India and Pakistan, can't talk to each other. That is something that it really fails me to understand, that if India and Pakistan, at least they're playing, whether they're playing in Sri Lanka, whether they're playing anywhere, at least they're playing. There are people in both the countries who on the TV watch each other, cheer for each other. If that is happening, why can't we talk to each other? What is the problem here? Unfortunately, like I said, Pakistan government, is this the right time? I don't think so. I think for the time being, what we should actually talk about is restoration of the rights of people of Jammu and Kashmir of this side, because that is actually under danger. Like Brigadier Khajuria rightly said, what if there is a decision against us tomorrow in the Supreme Court? That will be something that we all would be looking forward to, that I hope things come back to what it was before 2019. At least then there will be some semblance of normalcy on the ground. Today, like I said, I know there are so many things to be discussed, but I understand there is nothing much to say because all of you are so experts in talking about. But we must agree to one single point agenda, that we all sitting here from different fields of life, from different political parties, do understand that the only way forward is to start a dialogue process. How, when, does not squarely come on India. It also comes on the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan. I think people of Pakistan should rise up and say, look here, we need to talk. Because if you're talking to governments, then I think it will be very difficult. And like Mahjur said in one of his couplet in his poetry, he said, Valoho Bhagwano, now Baharu Shan Paida Kar, Halan Gul, Gat Karan Bulbul, Tuthi Saman Paida Kar. That is because we're talking Kashmiri. So I wanted to put this Kashmiri poetry in it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much indeed. Shahid Nadeem from Pakistan, activist. He is well-known activist. Shahid Nadeem Saab.
Right. Thank you, Shasa.
Next,
It's
5 minutes
fascinating.
are yours.
Sorry. It's so inspiring and so kind of fascinating as well to have this kind of interaction between people from the three regions, India, Pakistan, and Kashmir. And I fully endorse the idea that Kashmiris are the real stakeholders, and I'm one of them because I was born in the Kashmir Valley, and now I live in Pakistan. And my half of my family is still in the Indian side of Kashmir. I'm a playwright, and our theater group, Ajoka Theater, I will just give you some examples how people to people and especially cultural interaction can do wonders. I mean, we have tried it in the Punjab to Punjab relationship between Indian side of Punjab and Pakistani side of Punjab. We had Hamsaya festivals. We had collaborative productions and workshops and performance tours. And I'll give you one example that in 2016, when we were having a theater festival of Pakistani plays in Chandigarh, the chief guest there was the mayor of Chandigarh, who belonged to BJP, to Akali Party, and the host was the chairperson of Sangeet Natak Academy, who was from Akali Dal. And then moving on, we are perhaps the first group to have performed in Jammu and in Srinagar. A Sufi play on Baba Bulle Shah, and perhaps a very rare occasion that on the Jammu stage, Pakistani anthem and the Indian anthem were played together before a very enthusiastic audience. Then we went on to participate in a Sufi theater festival in Srinagar. So these things are possible, and people do interact, and they do share their ambitions and share their talent. And if we don't reduce the Kashmir solution or the peace efforts to political dialogue or to historical or to legal arguments, but involve the cultural side, where we have so much in common between people from India and Pakistan and Kashmir. And in some cases, the cultural bonds totally disregard or bypass or overcome the political conflicts and the political sort of propaganda. So I would suggest that one way of like the relationship we had between our counterparts in Punjab, and then we had tours and we had public interaction. The Indian groups coming to Pakistan, the Indian Punjabi groups in particular, they were totally amazed to see the response from the Pakistani side. And we were totally flabbergasted to see such love and affection from Indian audience, not just Indian artists or Punjabi artists from India, but from the common people, from the common audience. So that is one thing which I think can or should go hand in hand with political dialogue and track to or other behind the scene activities. And for that, the first thing is to allow the cultural groups to interact with each other, to travel, to have festivals, to have collaborations. And even online collaborations are sometimes very useful. During the times of Corona, for example, we had, or we still have these YouTube channels or WhatsApp group channels, and we share our thoughts and our common stories. And Kashmir is a land of Sufis, a land of peace. and it's a pity that that side, which actually brings people together, if that is somehow given a low priority. So that is my contribution. We are still carrying on with our interaction. In fact, my play called The River of Sorrow, Dukh Darya, which has recently been published by the Sahitya Academy in India, is about the identity of Kashmiri or a Kashmiri woman based on a true story. So this is now being distributed in India, and we are performing it here in Pakistan. So if there are more such activities and more such interaction, I'm sure we will be paving the ground for a more effective dialogue between the decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. I.T. Khajuria from Jammu. Khajuria साहब.
हाँ नमस्कार।
हाँ जी, 2-3 मिनट में।
मैंने तकरीबन सबको सुना है और मैं अपना जो पहले बोलना चाह रहा था उससे कुछ और ही समझ में आ गया कि हमें सबसे पहले यही चाहिए कि कश्मीर का मसला एक मसला है जो किसी लोगों ने मानना है कि ये मसला ही नहीं है, क्या कहते हैं जम्मू कश्मीर एक मसला है, कि मैं मानता चलता हूँ। और इस मसले का हल दोनों देशों की नेशनल प्रेस्टीज, नेशनल ऑनर, इंडिया और पाकिस्तान की और जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की भावना और उनकी अधिकार और उनकी जो मांग है, उन तीनों को अगर मिलाकर देखा जाए तो फिर एक नया रास्ता निकाला जा सकता है। यह कोई रास्ता अपनी मर्जी से नहीं निकला है। हमें जो नेचर की इस वक्त की जो दुनिया है उसकी जो सच्चाई है, उस सच्चाई में जो इंटरडिपेंडेंस बढ़ गई है, जितनी इंटरडिपेंडेंस बढ़ गई है उसमें आज मोदी जैसे हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी कहते हैं वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर। जब ये समझ लग रही है कि इस जमीन पर रहने वाली सारी दुनिया एक है तो उसमें फिर नेशनल बॉर्डर और फिर बम और ड्रोन और हमले जो न्यूक्लियर वो कोई काम नहीं करते हैं। इसलिए डायलॉग जो है वही एक प्रोसेस है और इंडिया पाकिस्तान को चाहिए कि फौरी अपना डायलॉग शुरू करना चाहिए और जम्मू कश्मीर का मसला भी उसमें एक हल है। और अगर कोई कोशिश की जाए तो दुनिया में आज जो सच्चाइयां दिखाई दे रही हैं और दुनिया की जो आज खतरे दिखाई दे रहे हैं, चाहे वो बीमारी है कोरोना, चाहे वो एनवायरमेंट है, चाहे वो ग्लोबल वार्मिंग है, चाहे वो ऐसे बाढ़ है, चाहे वो बाढ़ की जगह है, ये सब एक दूसरे को अफेक्ट करती है। और वो एग्रीकल्चर है, ट्रेड है, रोटी है, पानी है, महंगाई है, ये सब लोगों को
चाय बनाए फिर ले आना यार बना
अपनी कुर्सी के लिए सब कुछ दाव पर लगा दिया है। और इस कुर्सी के लिए जब दाव पर लगा दिया है तो सब हमारी प्रॉब्लम है जो वहां का बाहर रह रही। जम्मू कश्मीर ने बहुत जंगे भी देखी है, पर जम्मू कश्मीर आज जिस जगह का कसूरी साहब मैं रहने वाला हूँ उस तहसील का नाम जसमेरगढ़ है और हमारा रास्ता चक्रगढ़ को बाया सुखो चाप को होता था। आज हम उस बॉर्डर पर रह रहे हैं और बैंकों में रहते हैं और हमारी हालत ये 70 साल से यही है। हम पीस के हम समझते हैं आज की दुनिया में पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ पीस और इंटरडिपेंडेंसी कैन रिजॉल्व ईच एंड एवरी प्रॉब्लम। हर प्रॉब्लम का हल जो है वो आज एक नई सच्चाई जो हमारे सामने आ रही है तो वो यही है कि हम पीस की पॉलिटिक्स चलाएं और कन्फ्रंटेशन और कॉमनल और जो डिवीजन की पॉलिटिक्स है उसे डिफीट करें। तो इसलिए जम्मू कश्मीर का जो हमारी प्रॉब्लम है ये एक कोई भी इनकार नहीं कर सकता, ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। ये हिंदुस्तान में भी मान रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान में भी मान रहे हैं। सिर्फ सवाल है कि लोगों को रास्ता दिया जाए आपस में मिलने जुलने का। अगर लोग दोनों साइडों से जो आवाज निकालें तो एक रास्ता निकाला जा सकता है जिसमें इंडिया पाकिस्तान के जो हमारी लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल है, एक्चुअल लाइन, उसे कुछ अरसे के लिए पीस की लाइन डिक्लेयर करो, लाइन ऑफ पीस, और उस लाइन ऑफ पीस पर दोनों के तरफों के रास्ते खोले जाए, ट्रेड खोला जाए, ट्रेन सुकेतगढ़ और सोलपुर की खुले और बॉर्डर सुकोर जसमेरगढ़ का और चक्रगढ़ का खुले। और उससे ये होगा कि लोगों के अंदर एक विश्वास कायम होगा। आज हम दुनिया में देखते हैं अगर जर्मन की दीवार गिर सकती है, आज अगर यूरोपियन मुल्क इकट्ठे हो सकते हैं, अपने हजारों साल उन्होंने जंगें लड़ी हैं, 2-2 साल 4-4 साल 5-5 साल जंगें लड़ी हैं, और फिर वो इकट्ठे होकर एक इकानमी बनाकर चला रहे हैं, तो इंडिया पाकिस्तान भी रास्ता अपना सकते हैं। मैं तो इस बात को समझ कर चल रहा हूँ कि अगर इंडिया पाकिस्तान अपना कोई जॉइंट मैनेजमेंट, कोई जॉइंट प्रोग्राम, जॉइंट कोई और नो बार एग्रीमेंट कर ले,
Please
तो
conclude.
सार्क कॉन्फेडरेशन की तरफ बढ़ सकते हैं। जब हम सार्क कॉन्फेडरेशन की तरफ बढ़ेंगे तो हम खुद वेल्थ में भी और हम ट्रेड में भी एक पावर बन सकते हैं और सारी दुनिया को उड़ाता है। हम क्यों देख रहे हैं कभी एशियान को, कभी ब्रिक को, कभी G20 को, कभी कोटा को, कभी किसी को। हमें सार्क को मजबूत बनाए और इसे डेवलप करें। धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया।
Thank you. Sunil Vatal Saab, are you there? Sunil Vatal. Sunil Vatal Saab. Mr. Haq from Karachi. And then we will have Jha Saab and Kasuri Saab.
Thank you very much, Shah Saab.
Haq Saab, फरमाएं.
Thank you. Are you listening?
हाँ, बिल्कुल सुनाई दे रहा.
Thank you very much. All the participants, they have contributed well. And I would like to say that in the last meeting, I also suggested for a tripartite move wherein Kashmiris should also be taken into consideration as a major stakeholder. And they are the major stakeholder. It would be a repetition to say, but they are the major stakeholders, and they should be taken in every dialogue, in every consultation. They should be represented like that. And secondly, as very rightly, Muzaffar Shah has numbered this, all things agreed. I don't want to go into the details. I'll move a little further in saying that now in the presence, as everybody was of the opinion that this platform should take some concrete step towards making peace. So taking into consideration all these things, all the points, and taking and having with us persons like Kasuri Saab and Jha Saab, Zahir Hussain Saab, and others also. All the names maybe I can't mention. We need to form a small group of, say, 2 from each, 2 from Pakistan, 2 from India, and 2 from Kashmir. 6 persons to formulate a consensus document which should be acceptable to all of us, but people like us. There are so many who could be opposed to it, but we need to start from somewhere. Make out a plan, chalk out a plan, one by one, people to people contact, demilitarization, and what control line should be softened. Such things, whatever they have been in it, they have invested their time and energy and everything towards peace. So they should chalk out a plan, whether it is a 9-point, 6-point plan, 9-point plan, 12-point plan, or 14-point plan. Chalk out a plan. Let's agree in the next meeting. We sit all together and see what they have chalked out, and then give an approval, and then work for it jointly. One of the members said that Indian side should speak to the Indian government and Pakistan. No, we should jointly speak to the two governments. We should jointly speak to the two governments that this is the joint voice of all the three, Pakistan, India, and Kashmir, as a joint voice. So let's move towards this. And this, I am sure, if I'm taking this opportunity that Mr. Jha will be speaking and Mr. Kasuri will also be winding up. And during their winding up speech, if they give consideration to this and agree to sit together, six people, not much, 6 people, and make a joint statement, joint declaration. That's all I want to say, Shah Sahab.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Ajay Singh, a lawyer from Jammu, but sitting with me right now, will speak for 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shah Sahab, for giving me this opportunity. Last 100 odd minutes have been literally music to ears. I mean, listening to Kasuri Sahab, Jha Sahab, Muzaffar Shah Sahab. I mean, obviously, we all crave for peace. We want peace. I hail from Jammu, though I practice here in Delhi. Very briefly, a couple of points which I would like to state here. Yesterday, I was watching one interview of Mr. Omar Abdullah, and certain factors which he mentioned and which I've personally also witnessed during my visits back home and even to Kashmir. The post 370, we see a sort of irreversible, maybe not irreversible, but a certain change, a very visible change, which is like the number of lockdowns or buns, the strikes have gone down. So in that sense, whether it's a forced sort of normalcy, but there is that kind of normalcy now, which people are getting used to. So that means business, when otherwise it would have probably been shut on 3 to 4 days in a week, now it is continuing. So business is continuing, schools are continuing. So people are getting used to that kind of situation also. And depending upon what the Honorable Supreme Court rules, we might have to reassess the proposed models. Also, Kasuri Saab, I did go through the note contours which you had shared, and I agree with each and every point. Only thing I'd like to add here is that while we will continue to discuss on the points which are of conflict between the two countries and so far as Kashmir is concerned, but also maybe like one of the speakers, I didn't catch his name, but like he suggested, we can probably move to some of the softer areas. Maybe cultural interactions could be one, cricket is another, and there are a lot of other shared problems. I mean, during COVID, we saw the problems which we faced. All of those were common areas, and being countries which are very much alike in more ways than one. I believe there can be collaborations on those fronts, whether that's education or any of those. So maybe some positive steps in that direction can be taken. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the closing remarks from our speakers.
Before I invite Jha Saab and Kasuri Saab to offer their concluding remarks, is there anyone who has to say something in half a minute or so? Nijamuddin Bhatt Saab. Half a minute.
But sir, please unmute yourself first.
Unmute, please. सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
That this अब आ रही है?
हाँ, अब आ रही है।
A very good suggestion has come up. It came up, in fact, in the last meeting too. It's coming up now again, that this forum, which has been making an exercise to make two governments feel concerned about the situation or the views their own people express or have. These views should be concretized. This entire exercise needs to be summed up now somewhere, where you would go to two governments which actually have to operate finally, whose actions will finally matter, whose decisions will finally matter. that both governments be exhorted upon with a summed up opinion from this four. And that opinion, one of the colleagues said that 4, 5, 6 people should sit. Our entire forum should meet somewhere and discuss one particular document which proposes a certain tangible suggestions are made therein, and two governments are made to go ahead. We listen to government. This is not the job of this forum. When will they meet? How they will have to decide? That will entirely be a political decision. It will hinge on the egos of the governments and then their own interests, and then finally the security of the state, the interests lying at the national level of both countries. We, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, who are sufferers of delay now, certain tangible suggestions are made by any forum. And our forum, which has been taking an exercise, should have that much of an honor to forward those suggestions and see that those suggestions are seen, considered, heard, and acted upon.
Thank you. Jha Saab, as many minutes as you want.
No, sir.
Mr. Jha Saab is most effective MP and most loved person in Jammu and Kashmir. He may have a big responsibility from May 2024 onwards. You never know. Jha Saab.
Thank you. आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर. Actually, to all the friends, through you, Shah Saab, I heard everybody, except for minor differences. There is more of commonality amongst all of us, whether we speak from Karachi or Lahore or from Calcutta or Delhi or whatever, including Kashmir. I mean, why including, particularly Kashmir? I'll make briefly some points which the finest takeaway from this meeting I see is the possibility of peace. That a craving, we might be in the shrunken territory. Whether I'm in Delhi in a shrunken territory, Shah Sahab in Delhi, Kolkata, or people in Kashmir, my friends, or in Pakistan. All of us have spoken about the fact that we are actually in a shrinking or shrunken territory. But the very fact is the territory is available to us. So what we can do, we can actually challenge, resist the dominant narratives which is playing in both the countries. There is a historical cycle. At times in Pakistan, that anti-India sentiment was high. Of late in our country, anti-India, and I measure those sentiments by the fact that I speak about a particular issue which has no remote connection, and I'll be asked कि पाकिस्तान चले जाओ. मुझको लगता है कि हमारे यहाँ उनकी आबादी पाकिस्तान चले जाओ कहने वाले की थोड़ी बड़ी है, और पाकिस्तान में इंडिया चले जाओ वाले की आबादी थोड़ी कम हुई है. But we must also acknowledge that एक गरम हवा दोनों देश में है. ये एक फिल्म थी गरम हवा, तकसीम के बाद बनी थी, और उस दौर के हालात में एक गरम हवा दोनों देश में, और उससे हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आई थिंक पीपल कैन अंडरस्टैंड हिंदुस्तानी. मैं बोलूं हिंदुस्तानी में थोड़ा?
प्लीज.
तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि ये गरम हवा का दौर दोनों मुल्कों में है. उसका सबसे बुरा और बड़ा असर कश्मीर पे है, जिसको सबने एक्नॉलेज किया. अब हम लोगों को कुछ बेबी स्टेप्स लेने होंगे. बेबी स्टेप्स लेने का मतलब, मैं एक छोटी बात कहता हूं शाह साहब आपके माध्यम से. तनवीर भी यहाँ हैं और कई लोग हैं. अभी हमने जून के महीने में एक अपोजिशन की अलायंस बनाई, इंडिया अलायंस. वो पटना में पहली मीटिंग थी. उसके बाद बेंगलोर में इंडिया नाम पड़ा, फिर मुंबई में मिले. मैं क्यों इसका उदाहरण दे रहा हूं कि एक दो साथी ने कहा कि हम बिना, बल्कि मुखर्जी साहब ने कहा, ब्रिगेडियर मुखर्जी ने, कि हम बिना एजेंडा के मिले. मुझको लगता है कि मिलना अपने आप में एक एजेंडा. हम पटना की मीटिंग में हमारे पास कोई एजेंडा नहीं था सर. I say it with conviction. एजेंडा सब्सिक्वेंटली बैंगलोर और मुंबई में आया, लेकिन पटना जो था, मिलना वाज एन आइस ब्रेकिंग एक्सरसाइज। हमको वो कोशिश करनी होगी कि वो आइस ब्रेकिंग के लिए विदाउट एजेंडा, और मैं दोहराता हूं कि द वेरी एक्ट ऑफ मीटिंग इज एन आइस ब्रेकिंग एक्सरसाइज। अगर इस जूम मीटिंग से कई लोगों के ख्यालात, मुझे कई सारी चीजें, कई आइडिया आए, इसी सिलसिले में कहूंगा कि पीस बिटवीन टू स्टेट्स आर एक्चुअली, अगर मैं कहूं, एक बड़ा मल्टीपल लेयर का होता है, मल्टीपल लेवल ऑफ निगोसिएशन, लेकिन छोटी छोटी पीस की कवायद हम लोग कर सकते हैं। अगर हम इसी तरह के माध्यम से, अगर फिजिकली हो सके, इसी तरह के मीडियम से अगर फिजिकली हो सके तो ज्यादा बेहतर है। हमारी कोशिश होनी चाहिए कि दोनों तरफ के लोग कश्मीर और कश्मीर के अलावा बाकी मसलों पर भी बैठने की शुरुआत करें। अगर हम डोमिनेंट नैरेटिव को थोड़ा बहुत चैलेंज करेंगे, मुझे लगता है कि वो स्पेस हमें मिलेगा। और एक चीज में अजय जी की बात से, अजय जी को सुनना बहुत अच्छा लगा, लेकिन मैं एक बात कहूं, मैं 8 बरस का था जब इंडिया अपने यहाँ इमरजेंसी लगी थी। मेरे पेरेंट्स दोनों यूनिवर्सिटी टीचर्स थे, और वो कहा करते थे, देखो लोग टाइम पे दफ्तर आते हैं, ट्रेन टाइम पे चलती है, राशन टाइम पे मिलता है, कहीं कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। तो नॉर्मेलिटी के कॉस्ट का भी एनालिसिस हम सबको करना चाहिए, क्योंकि मैं कश्मीर का वासिंदा नहीं हूं, लेकिन मुझको लगता है कि जब जब मैंने पार्लियामेंट में बात कही है, तो ऐसा नहीं है, बीजेपी के लोगों ने भी स्वीकारोक्ति की है कि हाँ ये एक्सट्रीम हो रहा है, ये नहीं होना चाहिए। मैं समझता हूं कि ये सारे टेक अवेज हैं आज की बातचीत से। और मैं और क्या कहूं, कुछ भी और कहने, कसूरी साहब से शुरुआत हुई थी, सब लोगों को सुना, और मैंने किसी में भी सेंस ऑफ पेसिमिज्म नहीं देखा है। पीपल विथ पेसिमिज्म कैन नेवर बी द वोटरीज ऑफ पीस। अगर ऐसा होता ना तो बर्लिन की दीवार नहीं गिरती, वक्त लगता है। और मुझको लगता है कि जो हमारे पार्टीशन के वक्त में जो लोगों, कई लोगों के ये ख्याल थे कि ऐसा हो जाएगा कि ये बॉर्डर मीनिंगलेस हो जाएगा, लोहिया जी से एक थे। I would live for that idea, and whatever little I am interested with, I'll work with that kind of aim in my mind. And thank you very much. आप सबका मैं कहता हूँ बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि मैं इस फोरम पे आया और इस पर बातचीत हुई। ये बहुत it has given me an insight how to go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jazab. Concluding remarks from Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri Saab.
Kasuri Saab, please unmute yourself.
आपने कैसा कसूरी
अब आ रही है
साहब?
आवाज?
हाँ, अब आ रही है।
अच्छा, मेरा ख्याल है कि बेहतर होगा कि जिसको आप हिंदुस्तानी कह रहे हैं, मैं उसको उर्दू भी कह सकता हूँ। एक किस्म की मैं उसी में बात करूं, कॉमनैलिटी इसमें भी आपको नजर आएगी कि एक ऐसी जबान है जो सारे बर्रे सगीर में, ऐसे इलाकों में भी जहां उर्दू या हिंदी नहीं बोली जाती, वो आपके ड्रामा, फिल्म इंडस्ट्री, कल्चरल एक्सचेंजेस की वजह से कम ये जबान समझी जाती है। डीप साउथ इंडिया का मैं नहीं कह सकता, क्योंकि वहां मैंने एड्रेस किए हैं जाके कई दफा, तो वहां शायद ये, लेकिन यहाँ ज्यादातर लोग नॉर्थ इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के बैठे हैं। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि बेहतर है कि मैं भी उर्दू में बात करूं। और मैं कहीं रिसर्च कर रहा था, एक किताब आई थी तो उसमें लिखा हुआ था, गालिब हिंदी के बहुत बड़े शायर थे। गालिब, मुझे बड़ा बुरा लगा। मैंने कहा यार ये कमाल हो गया, वो तो उर्दू के बहुत अजीम शायर। उसके बाद ऑथर ने यकायक कहना शुरू कर दिया वो उर्दू के बहुत अजीम शायर हैं। तो मैंने रिसर्च की, मैंने कहा क्या मसला है कि भाई कहीं इसको हिंदी का शायर कहा जा रहा है उर्दू। तो रिसर्च में पता चला कि भाई रेख्ता हिंदवी हिंदी, हिंदुस्तानी, उर्दू एक प्रोग्रेशन है मुख्तलिफ अदवार में, और इनका ओरिजिन एक जैसा है, संस्कृत से भी लिया गया है, अरबी से भी, फारसी से भी। तो ये जबान हर जगह समझी जाती है। यही एक कल्चरल, आप कह रहे थे ना लोग, कल्चरल बॉन्ड, वो बहुत बड़ी बॉन्ड है। एक जमाने में बॉलीवुड भी बॉन्ड हुआ करती थी, लेकिन अब मैंने देखा है कि उनको ऐसी फिल्में बनाने को लगता है, कहा जाता है, जिसमें दुश्मनी बढ़े, लेकिन उसके बावजूद बहुत से लोग ऐसे बॉलीवुड में हैं जो स्टैंड लेते हैं, और वो ऐसे। और फिर पाकिस्तान के ड्रामा सीरियल्स हैं। एक जमाने में मैं हिंदुस्तान आया करता था, जैसे जाहिद हुसैन साहब जो हमारे एक बहुत रिस्पेक्टेड जर्नलिस्ट है, उन्होंने कहा कि वो एक जमाने में दिल्ली जाया करते थे, मैं भी हिंदुस्तान जाया करता था, और बड़ा खुश होता था। लोग कहते थे कि आपके प्लेस पीटीवी के इतने पॉपुलर हैं, क्योंकि पूरा फैमिली वॉच कर सकता है, कि हम ज्यादा वो वॉच करते हैं। ये एक यूनिटी की बॉन्ड है। अब सवाल ये है कि बहुत मेरी बदकिस्मती या खुशकिस्मती ये है कि मैं पावर पॉलिटिक्स को समझता हूँ, रियल पॉलिटिक्स को समझता हूँ, और अवामी उमंगों को समझता हूँ। अवामी एस्पिरेशन, जिनको उमंगों का मतलब ना पता हो, अवामी एस्पिरेशन को समझता हूँ। इनमें हमआहंगी लाना ही काम था। अब जब ये 4 पॉइंट्स या 12 पॉइंट्स जब बने थे, ये ऐसा हवा में नहीं बन गए थे, एक माहौल पैदा किया गया था। अभी जो मुझे बहुत अच्छी बात शायद नदीम साहब की लगी, उन्होंने, अब मैं रिपीट नहीं करता, उन्होंने जोका थिएटर ग्रुप के बारे में कहा। प्रॉब्लम ये आ गया है कि अगर क्रिकेट खेलनी हो तो नहीं, हिंदुस्तान की गवर्नमेंट कहेगी लाहौर में नहीं खेलेंगे, और इसका एक रिएक्शन होता है। फिर एक स्टेज पाकिस्तान में ये बात हुई थी कि हम नहीं वर्ल्ड कप में इंडिया में खेलेंगे। फिर यह डिस्कशन हुआ। लगता है कि यहाँ सेम वॉइसेस आज इंडिया से ज्यादा मौजूद पाकिस्तान में है, लेकिन ये हालात बदल सकते हैं। आपने अभी कहा कि 2024 के बाद झा साहब जो हैं उनको बहुत अहम जिम्मेदारी मिलेगी। साथ पहले तो मैं घबरा गया कि उनको जिम्मेदारी कहाँ से मिलेगी, फिर उन्होंने खुद क्लियर किया कि इंडिया जो उन्होंने अलायंस एक बनाया है, वो उसमें बहुत एक मुतहर्रिक शख्सियत है, एक्टिविस्ट है। तो लेकिन उसकी बड़ी भारी कीमत अदा करनी पड़ी है हिंदुस्तान को। एक तारीखी नाम इंडिया को आप सलाम कर रहे हैं, अलविदा कर रहे हैं, उससे कह रहे हैं भाई हम इंडिया नहीं, हम तो भारत है। इंडिया का जो अलायंस बना है, कहीं ये ना हो कि हिंदुस्तान अपने नाम से ही गायब हो जाए। बट एनीवे, ये आप लोगों का अंदरूनी मामला है। तो मैं तो बात वहीं से शुरू करूंगा कि हर चीज का जवाब पीपल टू पीपल कांटेक्ट। अब मैं आपको साबित करता हूं कि ये देखें, अफसोस यह है कि कहा
सुनाई नहीं दे रही है। कसूरी साहब, आपकी आवाज नहीं सुनाई दे रही है। कसूरी साहब, कसूरी साहब, आपकी आवाज नहीं सुनाई दे रही है। कसूरी साहब, कांट हियर यू।
आवाज आ रही है?
अब आ रही है,
आवाज आ रही?
अब आई है।
अच्छा,
दो
अब आ रही
मिनट बंद हो
है।
गई
तो
थी।
प्रॉब्लम सारा जो है, मैं आपको बताता हूँ इसका कमाल। पीपल टू पीपल, जब हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट मैच में उतरते हैं, ये एक बदकिस्मती है। तो लगता है जैसे बैटल फील्ड है। वो क्रिकेट फील्ड नहीं है, गेम्स नहीं है, वो एक बैटल फील्ड है। लेकिन जो कमाल हुआ पीपल टू पीपल कॉन्टैक्ट, वो मैं आपको बताता हूँ। जब हमने 1-2 साल पॉजिटिव बात की, और मैं बात करता रहा इंडिया पाकिस्तान में दोनों में, और मुझे ये कहना पड़ेगा कि मेरी बात उस इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को नागवार बुरी लगती थी, लेकिन मेरी आदत थी कि जब तक ना बोलूं पब्लिक को साथ नहीं मिलाया जा सकता। वो बड़ा जरूरी होता है। तो क्रिकेट मैच एक लाहौर में खेला गया और एक दिल्ली में। तो मैं उसका आपको बताता हूं। दिल्ली का मैच और सीरीज पाकिस्तान जीत गया, लेकिन वह कार्निवल एटमॉस्फेयर था, कोई दुश्मनी नहीं थी, कोई नारे खिलाफ नहीं लगे। लाहौर में पाकिस्तान हार गया, इंडिया जीत गया। इंडियन हमारे कुछ दोस्त आए थे, वो डर के मारे स्टेडियम से बाहर नहीं निकल रहे थे, कहने लगे यार कहीं हम पे हमला ना हो जाए। वो हैरान हो गए कि लाहौर के नौजवान जो हैं और वो बाहर इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के झंडे लेके निकले लाहौर क्रिकेट कजाफी स्टेडियम में, और उन्होंने इंडियन क्रिकेट टीम को चीयर किया। तो लोगों के रवैये बदले जा सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर आपका इलेक्ट्रल एजेंडा ही है, जो कि बदकिस्मती से आज लग रहा है रूलिंग पार्टी का, इतनी मुसलमानों को गाली दो, जितनी पाकिस्तान को गाली दो, उतने ज्यादा वोट पड़ेंगे। अगर इसमें आप 36 ग्रुप बना लें, यहां तो नहीं मिल सकते, अगर दुबई में मिल भी लें तो मैं दावे से कहता हूं आपको एंट्री भी नहीं करने दिया जाएगा दिल्ली, मीटिंग तो आप बाद में करेंगे। तो इसलिए ये बात डायलॉग रहना चाहिए। आप दुबई में चाहे मिल सकते हैं, मुझे कोई एतराज नहीं, मैं तो तैयार हूँ, मिलने में क्या एतराज है, बिल्कुल होना चाहिए। लेकिन अब बात आती है जम्मू कश्मीर की। ये बात बिल्कुल वाजे है कि ये जो कह लेना कि जी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया खुदा करे सही फैसला करे, लेकिन वो करे या ना करे, एक बेंचमार्क जो है वो ना वो है, ना पाकिस्तान है, ना इंडिया है, वो कश्मीर के लोग हैं। जिस दिन कश्मीर की वादी में रियल नॉर्मलसी होगी, वो नहीं जो एक नौजवान आपके साथ बैठे हुए कुछ फरमा रहे थे, जिनका जवाब झा साहब ने खुद ही दे दिया इमरजेंसी के दौर में, जब ट्रेनें टाइम पे चलती थी। इस किस्म के दौर हमारे यहाँ भी आए हैं, इसके यहाँ पाकिस्तान में भी आए हैं, जब ट्रेनें टाइम पे चलती थी, जब जो मिठाई की दुकानें थे उनके आगे बखिए रोकने के लिए जाली लगाई गई थी, नालियां साफ की गई थी, ये सब चीजें अच्छी हैं। लेकिन जो मैं कह रहा हूं वो ये है कि जिस दिन कश्मीरियों ने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया, मेरी बात ना सुनिएगा, जिस दिन कश्मीरियों को सारी दुनिया बता देगी, और छोड़े इंडिया पाकिस्तान मीडिया को, आजकल तो अमेरिका की आंखों का तारा है इंडिया, क्योंकि वो चीन के खिलाफ उसको एलाई बना रहा है। जिस दिन अमेरिका के अखबार लिखेंगे, वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट, न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स या बरतानिया के अखबार, या कहीं, तो मैं मान जाऊंगा वो कहेंगे कश्मीरी खुश हैं, तो मैं कहूंगा ठीक है। तो असल में जो टेस्ट है, क्या कश्मीरी खुश है, मैं समझता हूं कि इतनी नेगेटिव पर्पसेस पे नहीं बात करना चाहिए। ये मुमकिन है पाकिस्तान और इंडिया के दरमियान, क्योंकि मेरा तजुर्बा है कि जब आप पॉजिटिवली बात करें और बंद कमरे में आप बात करते थे, तो हम ऐसे नहीं लगते थे कि मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के वजीर खारजा हैं, फॉरेन मिनिस्टर्स हैं। हम ये करते थे कि इस प्रोसेस को आगे लाएं, हिस्ट्री नई बनाएं। जंग हो नहीं सकती, माजी की जंगों ने, मैंने ट्रीटी ऑफ वेस्टफेलिया का जिक्र किया, 80 साल 30 साल की जंगों के बाद आई थी, लेकिन जब जंग शुरू हो जाए तो पता भी नहीं चलता। फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर, एक शहजादे को कत्ल किया, क्राउन प्रिंस, किसी को पता ही नहीं था कि मिलियंस ऑफ लोग मारे जाएंगे। तो इसीलिए वॉर ऑप्शन नहीं, अमन ऑप्शन है, डायलॉग ऑप्शन है। डायलॉग को एनकरेज करना चाहिए। जितने क्रिकेट मैचेस, जितने कबड्डी मैचेस, जितने अजोका थिएटर्स, जितना ये काम करें उतना बेहतर होगा। जितनी फिल्में बॉलीवुड में बने जो इस काबिल हों कि पाकिस्तान में भी दिखाई जा सकें, ऐसी ना हो कि यहाँ बैन ही हो जाए। तो हमारे प्लेयर्स लकीली ऐसे नहीं होते जो इंडिया में बैन करने पड़े। बल्कि मुझे तो दिल्ली में, मैं लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल आगरा जयपुर गया तो हैरान हो गया, इतना पॉपुलर थे पाकिस्तान के प्लेयर्स। तो हमें कल्चरल एक्सचेंजेस बढ़ाने चाहिए। उसके लिए क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है? लिबरल वीजा रेजीम। जब तक लिबरल वीजा रेजीम नहीं होगा, नंबर 2 मेरा सजेशन, मैं कई ट्रैक टूर्स में जाता हूं, मैंने वहां सजेशन दिया है, यार ना बुलाओ, हम लोग जनरल्स, मिनिस्टर्स, पॉलिटिशियंस को बुलाते हैं, पार्लियामेंट के मेंबर्स को। मैंने कहा बुलाएं जर्नलिस्ट को, इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के लीडिंग जर्नलिस्ट को बुलाएं, पैसा वहां खर्च करें, खासतौर पर टेलीविजन जर्नलिस्ट को बुलाएं, जो कि एक जंग का माहौल अपने थिएटर में पैदा कर देते हैं। उनके दरमियान आप अमन कराने की कोशिश करें तो हालात बहाल हो जाएंगे। तो मैं सब बहुत खुश हूं कि इतनी सैनिटी की आवाजें हमने दोनों तरफ से सुनी, और यह एक गारंटी है कि जो मर्जी इलेक्शन जीत जाए। लेकिन क्योंकि मैं बॉर्न ऑप्टिमिस्ट हूं, अगर मैं ना होता तो मैं एफर्ट ही ना करता, इंडिया पाकिस्तान की तारीख पढ़ता और हाथ पे हाथ रख के बैठ जाता। मैं समझता हूं अमन होगा। क्यों? कि लोगों के दिल में ख्वाहिश है। फिर लोग मुझे बताते हैं नहीं कसूरी साहब, हिंदुस्तान का तो माहौल चेंज हो गया है, जब से मोदी साहब आए हैं वहां तो बिल्कुल ही सोच बदल गई। भाई ये आते हैं और ये चले जाते हैं। हमारे यहाँ जनरल ज़ियाउल हक साहब आए थे, लेकिन पाकिस्तान का कैरेक्टर नहीं बदला। और हिंदुस्तान में बहुत सी हुकूमतें आई हैं, ये हुकूमत भी आई, मुझे नहीं पता इलेक्शन का क्या रिजल्ट होगा, लेकिन मैं ये समझता हूं जो भी होगा अल्टीमेटली ग्राउंड रियलिटी प्रिवेल करेगी और अमन की आशा जो हिंदी का लफ्ज है और अमन की ख्वाहिश जो उर्दू का लफ्ज है, ये प्रिवेल करेगी। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you very much indeed. I must say that it was a very thought-provoking, interesting, and useful and meaningful session. Many suggestions have come, and we will think about them and try and take the process further. Thank you very much once again for your participation, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shah Saab.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much.